On today's show, Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan go off for the Bulls, the Sacramento Kings, and they beat the Pistons in a comeback win. Then Miami gets a win and making it kind of interesting in the play-in race for the East. We'll talk about all that and more on today's Locked On NBA Game Night.
When that final buzzer rings, you know it's time for Locked On NBA Game Night. All the post-game reactions to every game across the league, every single night, with insights only the hosts at Locked On can provide. It's the true NBA fans' one stop for all the action. Every game, every night. It's Locked On NBA Game Night. Tipping off now.
And welcome. You are Locked On NBA Game Night. My name is Nick Angstadt, host of the Locked On Mavericks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for being in every day or making Locked On NBA your first listen today. Joining me, as always, from Locked On Bulls. What'd you see in the NBA tonight or this afternoon? Camille Davis.
Well, hold on. First off, we from the Locked On Bucks. I know the Bulls are on the mind from what
did I
just
say
saw.
Bulls?
The disrespect. Milwaukee, Chicago, we don't get down like that.
The ex-Bulls are on my mind right now.
Understandable. But a fun night. Only 2 games tonight, but both games were strangely entertaining, and I didn't know what to expect given who was out in some of these games.
Yeah, both games we'll get into. Philadelphia against Miami. Miami get the win, and then we'll talk about the Pistons and the Kings. And we'll also get to Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Jaylen Brown had some things to say recently on a podcast. We'll get into them about gamblers, about who talks trash in the NBA, and some interesting stuff going on. We'll get into that a little later. But let's start here, Camille. The Pistons were up by 18 at one point in this game against the Sacramento Kings, and then DeMar DeRozan just goes absolutely off. Let's hear from our guy, Koo Cahill of Locked On Pistons. Oh, sad Koo.
A really tough loss tonight for the Detroit Pistons. They lost 127 to 117 to the Sacramento Kings at home. There's a really tough loss depending on what the Pistons want in the playoffs. They're chasing Milwaukee right now for the 5th seed. If they get the 5th seed, they'll be matching up with the Indiana Pacers. If they stay at the 6th seed, they'll be playing against the New York Knicks. It's just a matter of really what matchup the Detroit Pistons really want at this point now that they have their playoff berth secured. But one thing is for certain, you do not want to head into the playoffs on a losing streak, not playing your best brand of basketball, and that's what's happened to the Pistons over the last few games. They're not playing their best brand of basketball. They've been without Tobias Harris, who you're seeing his presence miss dearly. The Pistons are forced to play really small. Zach LaVine and DeMar DeRozan went out for 80-plus tonight because the Pistons were stuck having to guard him with Malik Beasley, THJ, Dennis Schroeder, because Asar Thompson's being forced to play up a position. So they need Tobias to get back so they can have some size and start getting back to that defense they had. And more importantly, more than just wins, they need to start playing better heading into the playoffs.
We'll talk about the Pistons side here in a little bit, but let's focus on the Kings because just absolutely going off. Yeah. Zach LaVine in this game. He was dominant in this one. 43 points, 8 of 11 from 3, including 3 to start the 4th quarter, where it was only a 3-point game. Sacramento was up 3 at the end of the 3rd quarter, and where Zach LaVine went off as well. And then he had 3 threes to start the 4th quarter. He had 16 straight points for the Kings. What did you see from Zach LaVine in this one?
I saw a man who looked very comfortable playing in Detroit, where he was like having some Chicago flashbacks. Him and DeRozan, like it was really that 1-2 punch from the two of them. And then you have Sabonis with the whole hum triple-double on the side here. But LaVine came out aggressive in this game early on in the 1st quarter. He was looking for his shot. He was finding it. He cooled down a little bit like in the 2nd quarter, but the 2nd half was really all Zach LaVine. The fact that he had like 17 in the 4th, only missed 1 shot down the stretch here. Like, it was an impressive scoring performance from him. And then you would see DeRozan get the ball, and he's just a mid-range maestro. So he gets the ball, and it looks easy for him. And it just felt like Bulls getting their revenge in Detroit on a new team. That's what it felt like.
It did feel like that. DeRozan, 37 points, only hit 1 3. Zach LaVine with 8 threes, 43 points. DeRozan, 37, but only 1 3. That's just how they get down. But those two just going absolutely off. And I don't know that I agree with Koo. Like, why didn't Asar Thompson guard either of these guys or put Ron Holland or somebody athletic on one of these guys? They were putting Beasley and Tim Hardaway and Schroeder at times regarding these guys. Like, well, I don't know. I can't figure out what they were doing.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure why they didn't try that matchup a little bit more. But, I mean, down the stretch there, I believe Asar had like 4 fouls in the 3rd. So part
He
of
did
it could
finish
be
with
just
5.
like, we got to save him a little bit for there. I did see him on DeRozan for a bit, but when you're in foul trouble, DeMar DeRozan is the last person that you want to try to check because he is so crafty at drawing fouls that it can be a problem there too. But it just wasn't working for the Pistons tonight. It did not matter who they threw at LaVine, who they threw at DeMar. Like the two of them were just cooking tonight.
They were. And it's one of those things where you just got to throw up your hands and say, all right, they just got way hotter than us. And you also think about the Pistons offense in the second half was just absolutely awful. You talk about the Kings going off. The Pistons, 45 points in the second half. The Kings had 65. The Pistons only took 35 field goals in the second half. The Kings shot 49. Like there was just a difference in the amount of like shots made because of the rebounding for the Kings over and over again. They just kept getting shots. Sabonis had 15 boards. Valanciunas had 12 boards. They were just getting the ball back, and they took way more shots than the Kings and than the Pistons, and you could just tell like over and over again they were getting the ball back.
Yeah, you could tell. And honestly, shout out to the Kings defense, what they did in the second half, because they had to tighten up a little bit themselves. But the only offense that the Pistons had going for them in the fourth was Cade Cunningham. Second half, I'll say, was Cade Cunningham. And watching him, Cade is strong. Cade is a big body Benz out here. Like he's going to try to get to the rim, and he's almost impossible to stop at this point. He has just such good body control. He scored, I believe it was like 25 of his 35 points in the second half of this game. And the Pistons needed every single one of those points. They just needed a little bit more from some of the other guys down the stretch as well. Like you expect a bit more from a Malik Beasley, who has been crazy hot from three, but can have games like tonight, where he shoots 4-14 from three. Need a little bit more than that. Tim Hardaway Jr., 4 of 11 from three. So two of the guys who you're really counting on to get those threes up to knock some shots down came up cold, and they needed a little bit more.
You had Malik Beasley on the Bucks. I had Tim Hardaway on the Mavs. Sometimes these are just the games they have.
It happens.
Like if you have to rely on them, you expect them to produce every single night. Sometimes it's just not going to happen where they just they can't go off every single night like that, which is why they're not they would be all-stars. Some nights Tim Hardaway looks like an all-star, then he doesn't at other times. Cade had 25 of their 45 points in the second half.
Even framing it that way.
20 points scored by everyone else. I'll take it one step further. No one else had more than one field goal made in the entire second half for the Pistons. Asar Thompson, Ron Holland, Tim Hardaway Jr., Simone Fontecchio, and Beasley all had one field goal made each in the second half.
That's unacceptable. Like you have to find ways. Again, like I said, shout out to the Kings defense because they did turn the pressure up a little bit there down the stretch, but that type of performance from everyone else around you, that's you can't have that. And for the Pistons, there was a possession, I think it might have been the second quarter, where they had like 4 3-point attempts, might have been the third quarter, where it was like a Malik Beasley missed free throw. He got the board.
Third quarter, 4 minutes left.
Isaiah Stewart just kept tapping it out. They got like 4 3-point attempts at that point. And it's like maybe momentum's going their way, and it never came for the Pistons.
Yeah, the Kings just kept fighting back. Shout out to the Kings. They also lose Malik Monk like 6 minutes into the game with some kind of like a calf. They called it a left calf soreness. He checked out of the game and didn't come back the rest of the game. So they're down multiple guys right now. Keegan Murray didn't play in this one either. The Kings right now are in 9th in the West. They're a game up now on the Mavericks. They are, not going to hit 8. They're not going to get to 8th. They're stuck there. How do you feel about the Kings playing the Mavericks in that first play-in, and then potentially playing one of, who knows at this point, the Nuggets, the Clippers, the Warriors, the Timberwolves, the Grizzlies in that second game?
I think for the Kings, honestly, it's been an up and down season for them. They fired their coach early on. They had some momentum with Christie at first, and then that started to fall off. Like last week, you heard vibes are bad in Sacramento. Now they roll off a few wins here. Like with the play-in tournament format being a game, and then you get to have another game, more kind of a March Madness feel rather than a best-of-7 series. Anything can happen in one game. Like if the Mavericks are healthy in that one game, I'd probably put my money on the Mavericks with the defense that they have in their front court and their size to come out victorious in that one. But again, you can have a night too where LaVine goes off, DeMar goes off. Like they have some guys over there in Sacramento that are capable of going off, which in a 1-game series, 2 games, like that's going to be really helpful.
The Mavs would easily have the best player in that game, but that usually like shows itself in the stretch of a 7-game series where, all right, that one's eventually going to win out. Sometimes one game, it doesn't matter. So I'm with you. If they shoot like they did tonight, the Mavs couldn't guard them on the perimeter. They just couldn't stick with them. They wouldn't be able to to hang with those guys. They'd get as many mid-range jumpers as they wanted because the Mavs will give up some of those shots, and it would be a big problem for the Mavericks. The problem is for the Kings. It's like, who are they beating? Grizzlies, Timberwolves, Warriors, Clippers, Nuggets to make it into the 8th seed, and I don't see that for any of them.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to move up to 8. I think for the Kings, it's staying at 9 or escaping through 10. Like anything.
I mean, even the second play-in to like.
Oh, second play-in. Yeah, it's. I don't know. I don't really have too much faith in Sacramento. Great game tonight, though. But
they do have two of the best shot makers in the NBA, and they've got Sabonis that can create stuff, that can get boards. Valanciunas coming off the bench getting boards. That's a tough matchup for a lot of different teams. They've got stuff. They can win a one game. It just depends on how they wake up that day.
That's fair. Again, it's one game, so they got it in them. It's just anything longer than that. Like if the Kings escape the play-in and they make it to the playoffs, great story. But I think it comes to a close whether it's Houston or OKC that they'd have to play in that first round series.
Yeah. Coming up, let's get into the Heat versus the Sixers. The Heat win the game. What are the Heat? That's what I want to talk about. Let's talk about what are the Heat. We'll talk about that and more coming up. Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by Robinhood Gold. With Robinhood Gold, you can now enjoy the VIB treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on retirement contributions. The privileges of the very privileged are no longer exclusive. With Robinhood Gold, your annual IRA contributions are boosted by 3%. Plus, you also get 4% APY on your cash and non-retirement accounts. That's over 8 times the national savings average. The perks of a high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive your 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. Rate subject to change. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold at $5 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Over 8 times the national savings average. Account interest rate claim is based on data from the FDIC as of November 18, 2024. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. Being an everyday or listening every day, we have a daily show that covers your favorite team. Locked On Bucks, Locked On Mavs, by myself. All kinds of stuff. Check the link in the description to find a show that covers your team every day. Also a newsletter, LockedOnDaily.com. There's a newsletter that covers your team. Great insights from across the league as well. Fantasy insights daily, different articles that you can read. Check it out. LockedOnDaily.com to find your newsletter. All right, Camille.
Yes.
The Sixers, quote unquote, I'm putting them in quotes because their injury list was just, I mean, it was just wild how many people were out against the Miami Heat. The Heat maybe also putting the Heat in quotes too, because Bam Adebayo didn't play, Wiggins didn't play, you didn't have Jovic is still out, Terry Rozier. I guess do we still care about Terry Rozier?
I mean, yes, he's been playing, so you got to mention it. Yeah.
I guess the Sixers started Quentin Grimes, okay, Jared Butler. Adeem Bona, Lonnie Walker, and Marcus Bagley. Not Marvin, Marcus. It's like his 7th NBA game starting for him. It's just wild what's happening with the Sixers right now. Their injury list is wild. The Heat pull out to a 10-point lead in the second quarter on a 15-4 run. At halftime, they were up by 8. You had 6 players in the Heat with between 8 and 12 points. This was kind of like a team win for them in this one. Mm-hmm. Philly briefly took the lead in the third quarter, and then you had you finish out the game. Miami went on a 16-3 run in the middle of that fourth quarter. It was tied 88-88, and then it was a 13-point lead for Miami. They never really looked back after that. Finishing the game, you had Tyler Hero with 20 points. You had Killa Ware having a great game, 19 and 17. Let's hear from Wes Goldberg from Locked On Heat.
Miami Heat beat the Philadelphia 76ers 117-105. No Bam Adebayo or Andrew Wiggins for Miami, but Tyler Hero did come back after a one-game absence. The Sixers, of course, were without Joel Embiid, Tyrese Maxey, and Paul George, but two banged-up teams tied after 3 quarters in this one, but the Heat outscored the Sixers 34-22 in that fourth quarter to come away with a pretty easy win there. They are now in position to play for a potential home court advantage in the 9-10 matchup against the Bulls, but they first need Chicago to lose to Cleveland on Tuesday night and then to beat the Bulls in Chicago on Wednesday night. So this win potentially setting up a game with pretty high stakes if we're talking about just the 9-10 matchup of the play-in tournament on Wednesday night. Kel'el Ware, the rookie, was awesome in this one. 19 points, 17 rebounds. He had this incredible one-handed putback dunk late in this game that really sparked Miami's win here. And he continues to make a case to be probably not rookie of the year, but certainly first team all-rookie this season. I'm Wes Goldberg. Tune into Locked On Heat with more.
That play-in scenario is kind of interesting because, like he said, the Bulls play the Heat on Wednesday. Tuesday, the Bulls play the Cavs, and if the Cavs take care of business and the Bulls lose that one, which the Bulls could beat anybody right now apparently, they'll be tied going into that game to see who's gonna win and who is gonna have home court advantage in that play-in game.
I'm a fan of the play-in tournament. Like, I'm glad that this is something that the league has at the moment. Because again, this is a game between the 9 and 10 seed in the East at the end of the season. But it's like, hey, this game has some stakes to it. Like, you can say these are artificially inflated states, made up states, because
they are.
You know what I mean? Because this play-in tournament's rather new.
So are divisions.
Right. But
when
like,
they mattered.
They matter. So this is fun. This is fun. I'm glad they have something to play for. And in this game for the Heat, where, as mentioned, he is somebody who over the last few weeks, along with Larson, have really been coming on strong for Miami, and getting those contributions from those rookies has been extremely helpful, given that Wiggins has been out for a while with his injury. I believe it's hamstring for Wiggins, I believe it is. He's been out for a while here, and they've just been dealing with other injuries there. So getting some impact and some play from those rookies has been really, really big for the Heat.
We talked about the Heat a little bit today when we brought on the squad show that's going to post later today. Which team in the play-in you think is the most dangerous, or would a top team like Cleveland and Boston want to play the least between the Magic, the Hawks, the Bulls, and the Heat? They're not going to win. They're not going to win this series, right? But which team would you want to play the least? And the Heat got brought up a couple times.
I could see why the Heat would get brought up a couple of times, but I think it has to be the Magic with their defense. Like, you're probably not as worried about what they can do offensively, but again, if it's a situation where they can string together some of those role players knocking down shots, like, it can get ugly quickly. But also, it's just going to be a really physical series playing against Orlando, because they are going to play some defense. They're going to try to set the tone early. So, like, even when you get out that series, if it's even a 4 or 5 game series, you're going to probably feel like you're getting out of a 6-7 game series playing around with the Magic.
Yeah, the physicality of them, you would feel it afterwards for sure. I wouldn't want to play the Bulls though. The Bulls have just been they've been so hot, and you just never know. Although you can scheme against Josh Giddey the way that, even though he shot well from 3 this year, I think you still can do that. It's interesting. All 4 of them have like just some kind of friskiness to them in some way. Davion Mitchell played in this game, and he finished plus 27, the team high. He had 12 points and 9 assists off the bench. Wes Goldberg tweeted that I think Davion Mitchell is the Heat's fastest player with the ball in his hands. And so I'm going to do a little bonus. Count it up. Who's the fastest player with the ball in the NBA right now? If Davion Mitchell's the fastest on the Heat.
First person who comes to mind for me is like De'Aaron Fox. Like, Fox has always been one of those guys, when he gets the ball in his hand, you just got to watch out. So like, Fox is probably first that comes to mind for me. He's
number 1 on 2K. I went and looked, and 2K has speed with the ball as a rating right now. 97 for Fox. Ja Morant number 2 at 95. Found that one interesting. Tyrese Maxey at 90.
That's fair.
Amen Thompson at 90 as well.
Another blur. Yep.
His brother Asar 88 got kicked down a couple, and then Davion Mitchell is at 82, so pretty high for him. But yeah, I thought that was interesting. I would take the Thompson twins even over Fox. Fox was on that podcast recently where he talked about, he's like, they may be the best athletes in the history of the sport.
I mean, it's also because of their size. Like, to be able to move the way that they do at their height, like, it's freakish. I was just having a conversation earlier about how this next generation of athletes and basketball players are just mind-boggling, and using the Thompson twins for reference, because what they do is magic. It feels like at times on the court.
Their mothers, I heard somebody say this week, their mother birthed 2 superheroes, basically,
yeah,
between the 2 of them.
Had to give them a whole speech about responsibilities and all that stuff early, like, with great athleticism.
With great power, yeah. Podcasts bring great power, and Jaylen Brown was on one of those, saying some stuff. Let's talk about him in our segment Count It Up, where we count out the most interesting, fun things in the NBA. Coming up next, Locked On NBA Game Night. Today's episode of Locked On NBA Game Night is brought to you by BetterHelp. BetterHelp. If you are in a position where you just need someone to talk to, or if you just have something that you're concerned about or have anxiety about, what you lay at night thinking about over and over again, that may be anxiety. You may need to just talk through it. And maybe you just need to logic through it or talk through it with somebody else that doesn't have a point of view, that is just there to hear you out, here to be there for you. That's something that I definitely have needed in my life. And BetterHelp was there for me when I needed it. BetterHelp can come in. And with traditional in-person therapy, it can be expensive, ranging from $100 to $250 per session, but BetterHelp can help you out. It's online, so it's flexible with your schedule. You can get quality care at a price that makes sense, saving you time and money. Therapy isn't just for life's toughest moments, though. It can help you with everyday stress, learning how to set boundaries, developing coping skills, having access to support when you need it can make a big difference. Your well-being is worth it. Visit betterhelp.com/LockedOnNBA today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. Thanks for hanging out with us on Locked On NBA Game Night. We've got every single game, every night on Game Night. That's what we do here. And every Monday, we continue to do our favorite segment.
Chicken, baby. Zion Williams and porn star.
Take that for that.
Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up. Count it up.
Count it up, where we count the most interesting, fun things in the NBA tonight or just in general. Jaylen Brown was on the $1 Million Worth of Game podcast. Okay. Million, the dollar sign worth of game. I had never heard of this show. Had you?
No, not familiar.
No, but Jaylen Brown was on it with his gloves, and he was talking about how gamblers will say insane things and comment insane things to him about messing up their parlays and things like that. Then Jaylen Brown said, "If one of you parlay effers run up on me, I'm gonna F you up. I'm telling you, try it if you want. That's all I'm gonna say." My question is,
count it up.
Should NBA players be allowed to retaliate for some of these gamblers and how they talk to NBA players?
I mean, listen, I feel like one thing the internet has done is made people a lot braver because they're saying things through a screen. But if you have the gall to walk up to an actual player and come to their face and talk about some parlays not hitting and what they were doing and being upset and being disrespectful, I think most players, if it's a joke, they can tend to, take that. But when it gets disrespectful or crosses the boundary or you're trying to harm them, it's a problem. So, listen, I'm here for what Jaylen Brown was talking about. Sometimes people got to get hit in the mouth. That's not probably what you would expect me to say, Nick, but sometimes people got to get hit in the mouth.
You know what? I'm not surprised that you would say that. I'm not surprised because sometimes people need it. Every once in a while, you just get a little too comfortable, right? Like the boundary between do we know these athletes? Do we not? I even talk to people sometimes that they're like, oh, they feel like they're friends with me because they just hear my voice so much on shows and stuff like that. And then they get a little too comfortable and you're like, oh, wait, hold on 1 second. I can't imagine what it's like for a Jaylen Brown, where some people just all they think about is their favorite team, their favorite player, the stands and things like that. I can't imagine what that's like.
Yeah, me either. I can't. But listen, I know one thing for sure. When a black person says, try me, that is not an invitation to try it. Please do not proceed at your own risk. Exercise caution. Don't do it. And if he got his gloves on too, you really don't want to do it. You don't want to mess with that.
Jaylen Brown also said he was asked about who trash talks, who's somebody that you just you're annoyed to play because they trash talk all this. He said the only person who does weird stuff and trash talk is.
You want me to guess it?
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks.
Dylan Brooks. He said that's his gimmick, though. Some players do whatever they need to do to stick in the league. My question is,
count it up.
Is that more of a compliment, saying Dylan Brooks is unique and is his own player, or is that a dig at Dylan Brooks?
It's one of those situations where if Dylan Brooks wasn't known to be a good defender, then that's something that you would say about a goofy player. But it reminds me of a Lance Stevenson, right? Where it's sometimes you got some antics. Blowing in the ear. You got some antics. But people respect what you do defensively. They just know and accept that you're gonna just do weird stuff along the way because you're trying to get them off their game.
It felt like a little bit of a dig to me. He called it. He said that's his gimmick, though. I thought that was
it's a wrestling thing. It's his gimmick. That's what he's out here for.
That's his gimmick. Oof, that was tough. And then some players do whatever they need to stick in the league. He tried to cover it up after, and I was like, I don't know, man. I think he just came out and said that that's how he sticks in the league. But
that's that hidden shade. I'm saying it nicely, but you know what I really mean.
What did the Rockets just pay him though? I mean, it worked. If that's his gimmick and it's working for him.
And honestly, you could argue that the Grizzlies are missing some of that personality that he brought over there along with Jones. So like,
Yeah.
culture setters, like some guys that are important, and it might be weird, it might be unique, but Dillon Brooks can be effective.
Let's play career salary for Dillon Brooks. And he's got 2 more years on this contract. The highest salary he's ever made in 1 year was last year at $22.6 million. Career salary for Dillon Brooks.
So 22.6. He has 2 years left on it.
He's got 2 years left. Yeah.
He's probably got what, 2 years, like 46 left. Oh, this is declining. Which
total? What has he made in his total career?
Oh, total career? I'm gonna guess 130.
Oh, so close. He's made 120 in his career. Just about 124, I guess, in his career. Which is, if that's a gimmick, I would take that gimmick for sure.
I tell you what, I surely would too.
Sam Amick wrote a great piece in The Athletic talking about talking about Steph Curry and Ime Udoka when the Warriors played the Rockets recently, and the Rockets kind of roughed up the Warriors. Amick says, while exiting the locker room at halftime, Curry appeared to be voicing his displeasure to officials about the way he was being defended. And Ime Udoka told The Athletic, when people start complaining about foul calls or crying about physicality, you've done your job. That's the first step in winning the battle. So I told my team, when this team starts crying about it, up the intensity, up the aggressiveness, and make the refs adjust to you. My question is,
Count it up.
Are you with Ime Udoka on this, or has he gone a little too far in the make the refs adjust to you?
That's some good coaching. That's some good coaching right there. I agree 100%. Like, I hear it often. Even Doc Rivers says, like, if you come out and be that team that can set the tone physically, normally the refs kind of craft their whistle around what you're doing if you start off the game that way. So keep it intense, but you also have to be aware of the whistle, because sometimes whistles can change halfway through a game and then you have to adjust.
Yeah, I'm with it. It's terrible that that's the way the NBA is. You wish that refs could just be robots and call it the same all the way across, because this is what I watched Luka for 7 years. Him just be so befuddled every single game that things were just called so differently. He tries to get that body foul every single time he shoots, and if he doesn't get it some games, he goes ballistic. And that's one of the reasons why he whines the refs so much, is because he just can't figure out why it's called differently. But if you're Ime Udoka, you're gaming the system. You're playing the game within the game. And I like that he said crying. He said crying twice on this. Not whining or not complaining. He said crying about it, which felt like just a little bit more petty than normal.
Oh yeah, that was intentional pettiness.
For sure.
That was intentional pettiness. But I mean, a young team too, like, you kind of got to continue to engrave that into their minds of, this is how we're going to play. This is what Houston Rocket basketball is at this time. And their playoff hopes rest on their defense really above anything, because that's how they create a lot of their offense anyway. So I'm here for it.
John Morant was big news this week when he did the gun celebration and got fined after he was warned and all that. This week, Pistons guard Marcus Sasser was caught almost doing the finger gun celebration after hitting a three. He started to get into it and then immediately caught himself and pulled back and made a face like, "Ooh, not me, not me, not me, not me," and he backed up. My question is,
Count it up.
Should the NBA just outlaw this celebration like they did the big balls dance?
Yeah, I mean, if that's the way that they're going to play it, it probably should be outlawed. Now, I will say I get why Ja got fined, because they literally had just said, you and Buddy Hield, hey, stop it. Looking at you, don't do this no more. The very next game, he goes out there and does it, which just felt like, come on, man. Like, you were just told not to do this, and you're doing it just because you were told not to. The maturity factor there for Ja, who is one of my favorite players still to watch in this league. So that was disappointing. But yeah, the NBA should probably just ban it from everybody at this point if that's how strongly they feel about it.
Yeah, I mean, they banned the big balls dance, right? Yeah, like they've done it before. There is precedent for them to do something like this, and so I get it. Last one we'll do. This week, Carmelo Anthony and Dwight Howard were announced as members of the 2025 Basketball Hall of Fame class, along with Billy Donovan, Florida, and all that. But it's kind of funny that a coach of a team that's kind of been mid the last couple of years is going to the Hall of Fame. Sue Bird, Maya Moore, Danny Crawford, the referee, the Redeem team, the 2008 team, Sylvia Fowles, Heat owner Mickey Arison as well. My question, though, is,
Count it up.
What's your first thought when you think about Carmelo Anthony's career?
F out of here. That's the very first thing that comes to mind. That's the first thing. Then the hoodies. But then after I get past some of the artificial things with Melo, it's just one of the smoothest games I've seen. Like I've mentioned before, I appreciate the mid-range. I love players that can get buckets in the mid-range because it has a level of creativity to it, and the shots just are inherently more difficult. So if you're good at those shots, you are good at making some really complicated but beautiful shots. And that's what Melo was. He was a walking bucket. Like Melo joined the league, age myself here, my freshman year in high school was when Melo, 03 was when Melo hit the league. The amount of Denver Nuggets jerseys you saw in that 15, that baby blue,
like I have one in my closet. I got one when I was a kid.
It's a classic. Like it's a classic. Then he goes to New York and the career is even better. Like a fantastic career.
My first thought was there's a meme very early. He's on the Olympic team and he's got the hoodie up and he's just in the corner and everybody's doing like singing some kind of song. I think it was maybe it was the Jimmy Butler. They were singing the 1,000 Miles.
Oh yes, yes.
They turn over to Melo and he gives them like a stank face.
Unimpressed.
It did not want it. And then I think it's the Olympics to me. Is the 3 gold medals and he was on all those teams and scored all those points. The other one though, Dwight Howard.
Count it up.
What's your first thought when you think about Dwight Howard's career?
A player who the ending of his career was a little bit too loud. And now people don't remember how good he actually was. Dwight Howard is somebody who I thought should have been NBA top 75 when they did that count or the acknowledgement a few years ago. So like a really, really good player, has done some goofy stuff, can be goofy, but like those Magic days in particular, just a dominant two-way force that had to be reckoned with.
Yeah, I will think of the finals that he took that Magic team to. That Magic team had no business being in the finals, run by the offense run by Hedo Turkoglu and Jameer Nelson and Rashard Lewis hitting threes. And then you had Dwight Howard just like holding it all together in some way. And then I'll think about how he reinvented himself on the Lakers and won that title. And I think that is just one of those things that both of these guys reinvented themselves in somewhat. Carmelo, maybe not as much, but they took on lesser roles later in their careers and had their careers lengthened because of that. And I think that both of them should be commended for that.
Absolutely.
And so great Hall of Fame class. Sue Bird, Maya Moore, incredible players going into this.
Yeah, truly. I wish Marcus Johnson finally got that nod, but we'll hope for it next year.
Check out the Locked On Bucks show, Locked On Mavs, all kinds of great shows all the time across Locked On NBA. We'll have the squad shows coming in your feeds later today. So thanks so much for listening to Locked On NBA Game Night.